So we're coming up on the end. We are getting through week 13. Going to be starting week 14 next week. That means after week 14, 2 more weeks. So basically, 3.5 weeks left in the semester. You are in the midst of writing this commentary book review, the critical book review on the Algiers Motel incident. Ideally, at this point, you've got a real clear sense of what you're trying to prove in your paper. You've gone through some steps of the critical thinking process and gone through some steps of your writing process in order to develop a pretty clear sense of this is what I want to say. And that's a key question for you to ask. What do I want to say? There are any number of ways you could write a critical book review, a commentary on the Algiers Motel incident. And we've talked about some of those in the past. You could write about Detroit. You could write about riots. You could write about the police brutality. You could write about what it means to live in a city. You could write about what it means to be black. You could probably, if you're black, probably shouldn't write about what it means to be black if you're white. Just keynote there. You could write about protest and what it means to protest, since that's what we've been studying all semester. You could write about writing and what it means to write. You could write about what it means to be a white person living in a world that is very concerned right now about black rights. There are lots and lots of things to write about. Some that are more serious, some that are a little more intellectual, any number of things. But right now, you should be asking yourself, what do I want to say? What do I want to write about? And ideally, you've figured that out. You've gone through the process of developing authority over this book, over your own experiences, and you've gone through a process of developing some analysis, perhaps by combining your experiences with this book, or perhaps by using some analytical method of cause and effect, or comparison contrast, or maybe you brought in some identity issues and you're looking at this book through those lenses. You've developed ideas, good ideas and bad ideas, and positive ideas and negative ideas, and broad ideas and specific ideas, and you've developed those ideas into a pattern of meaning that has allowed you to establish a claim, and that claim makes sense, and you're ready to prove it. And from that claim, you've started to develop some kind of pattern, a plan for writing this paper. Hopefully you're somewhere in that area of developing this plan, developing your claim. And from that, you're now beginning to think, oh, I could use some research in this paper. Maybe it would be really useful if I had somebody define justice for me, or maybe it would be really useful if I knew what a police officer is trained to do, or maybe it would be really useful if I could explore what basic human rights are or basic civil rights are. Maybe you're at that point where you need to do some research, and that's what this week is about. Getting into the library and figuring out research questions. And you can do that by just jumping on our library webpage. And so I'm going to take you to that right now and show you a couple of things. So I'm just going to take you from what I do when I get on. Click off my Amazon so you don't see what I'm buying. I'm going to take you what I do when I want to try to find the library. I go to HFC Online. And then from there, I click on Library Research and Library Support. That takes me straight to our library webpage. Now, of course, if we were on campus, going to the library is pretty easy. You just walk through the door. Here, because we are online, you've got to figure out your process for getting materials from the library. You can pick up books and order libraries. You can also jump onto library chat and just ask questions. Ask, I'm looking for sources that define protest or that talk about protest. Or I'm looking for sources that will help me define justice and theories of justice. And you could type that in, or maybe you could just start by saying, hi, I need some help. Another thing you can do is go up here to the summon search it all and just type in theories of justice. And when you type something like that in, you come back with a whole bunch of sources. A number of sources, both from journals and books, that will pop up. This is, by the way, one of the most famous books on justice. It's one of the books that I used in my dissertation because I wrote about justice. You will come up with a ton of sources. Of course, it really depends on what you type into this search box and how you identify what you want to say. Maybe you want to just get some background information on Detroit riots. And then you will pop up with some books. Detroit, Race Riots, Racial Conflicts, and Efforts to Bridge the Racial Divide. The Detroit Riot of 1967. Riots Remembered, Detroit the Movie. There's a lot of sources here. What matters is that you learn how to use the library, you learn how to use our sources. And by the way, a lot of these sources are online. If I click on Detroit Race Riots, it is available online. We have a physical copy of it, but you can also find it online. I don't know where that went. I thought it said that it was online. I'm not sure how to get it online. Oh, wait, maybe it's right here. Oh, okay. So in order to get it online, sorry, it's helpful to do this on screen so you see how I struggle too. In order to get it online, you have to have a library web card, a library barcode. You can talk to the librarians about that to figure out how to do that as well. So most of your information about doing research and incorporating research is in the readings and in the materials. The question is, why would you want research? Absolutely positively, you do not want to write a research paper. You don't want to write fact after fact after fact. Here's a really good question to ask yourself. If you are using research, would your reader be better served if they just went and read your research than they would be if they read your paper? And if that's the case, you're writing a research paper, and research papers suck. They suck because they are just these academic exercises that don't allow you to really establish your point, your ideas, your meanings. And the whole point of doing critical commentary, the whole point of doing a critical review is to establish your meaning, to know what you want to say and set out to say it. Why do you want to use research? Because sometimes you need help. Sometimes it's really helpful to find out some information about the Detroit uprising. Why do people call it an uprising? Sometimes it's really helpful to find out what is proper police procedure when investigating a place like a hotel in the middle of armed conflict. Sometimes you need help deciding what is a theory of justice and how could justice be applied to this situation. Those helps help you support your argument. But your argument has to relate to the helps. Don't start doing research here just because you're looking for something to say. It's an okay way to find something to say, but what you end up saying has to be yours. And we'll go back to our process here. If you're doing research to find something to say, you are way back in that first step of building authority. You have not done the analysis, the interpretation, the building of a pattern of meaning that you need to do. Figure out where you are in your process and make sure you're taking the steps appropriate to that step. It's a really quick lecture this week. I just want to check in with you, remind you that we've got a workshop date coming up, and that the workshop date will be, you'll be posting that paper in workshop at the end of next week to do workshop during week 15, okay? And then we'll just be getting closer to the end of the semester. Your papers are coming, I promise. You're going to get grades on those papers and comments on those papers. All right. I will see you again next week. And remember, research isn't a bad thing, but it matters if you're using it to support your argument or you're just reporting on things that other people have said. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.